Hey Lobos, Ben Johnson here to talk a little bit about PearDeck. If you're not using it yet to deliver your online classes, you should really start doing that as soon as you can. I know it's frustrating that students don't have their cameras on. You don't know if they're there, you don't know if they're paying attention, you don't know if they understand what you're trying to teach. With PearDeck, at least you can make those things just a little bit better. So the very first step is to get your Pro PearDeck account from the district. So just Google PSD space EdTech, and that will take you to the page that I'm on right now, and then the upper left hand corner is upgrade to Pro account, and you can see down here you can fill this out and then select PearDeck, submit that, and then you'll immediately get your Pro account, which will give you unlimited storage and all the different question types. After that, you need to get a Google presentation. It can be a new one that you make, an existing one that you have. It can be a PowerPoint that you upload into your Google Drive. It can be a smartboard presentation that you've converted to a PowerPoint and then uploaded into your Google Drive. Bottom line is you're going to want to get a Google presentation. It's really the easiest way to make this work. It can be one that a colleague shares with you and you make a copy of. Okay, now we need to get PearDeck onto your toolbar. To do that, you're just going to go to Add-ons, Get Add-ons. You'll search PearDeck in the search box here. It will bring that up and you'll click the green install button. You can see that I have that already in my Google presentation. Okay, it should show up here on the menu bar. If not, you can access it through the add-ons and you can open it up that way. So I'm just going to click on this to open it up. I'm just going to show you a couple of real quick slides and how I do this quickly so that I don't add a lot of work to my plate. You can use their template library with pre-written questions on all the different subject areas and social emotional needs. Check those out, but for right now I'm just going to show you how to use the question types that are here on the right. You need to have the question on the slide, and you can type that right on the slide in the title. One of the techniques that I like to use is just inserting a shape call out, and that's where I'll tend to ask a lot of my questions so that I don't have to redesign my entire slide. So here I'll just say, did you read chapter 1? I want that to be big enough that the student can see that on their screen, so I'll make that 48 point. So a lot of times I'll just embed the question using a call out that the students will answer, and then I'm just going to do a multiple choice here, and I'll be able to add the options that I want the students to choose from. And then I'll update that slide. So the students will be able to click on those three things. You'll see who's clicked on them, who hasn't, who clicked on which option, and then PearDeck will summarize the results so that you'll know 90% of the students read that, 5% didn't, 5% read some of it. PearDeck will add that all up for you. PearDeck puts this little banner on the bottom of your slide, and it shows you the question down here at the bottom just to remind you what you did. And then I'll just go to the next slide, and this one I'll just do a drawing question so you can see that really quick. So I'm just gonna, maybe if I wanted to, I can just go ahead and say something like, again, adding my little shape call out, and then I'll say circle the author in red and circle the genre in green. Okay, and again, I want the students to be able to read that, so I'll just bump that up to 48. So this is just a technique that I've learned that allows me to make my PearDecks really quickly without having to redo my slides. So that one's good, and again, that's just going to add the drawing question now by clicking on that. And I don't even have to do anything on that slide because here's my question. It added the banner. Students will be able to do that now when they get their new Lenovo tablets, 2-in-1s. They're going to actually be able to use a pencil right on their screen to circle that. Then we can just move right along, and here maybe I'm going to tell students to green thumbs up their favorite character, red thumbs down their least favorite character. And again, the types of questions that you ask here are important. I'm just doing silly ones for right now, so I'll just do insert shape, call out, and then you can pick whatever type of shape you want, and I'll say drag the green thumb to your favorite character and red thumb to your least favorite character. Okay, and again, these are pretty lame questions, but just want to have you get the point here, and then you can resize these. And if they're going to cover up some important part of your slide, you may just need to duplicate that slide. I like to ask pre-questions frequently also, so if you don't know what kind of question to ask, maybe ask the question before you show the slide to get a sense of whether students know anything about that or not. So this one is going to be draggable, and I'm just going to go ahead and change this to a thumb and make that green, and then I'll add another one and I'll make that red and a red thumbs down. Update that slide. Alright, and so I can continue to go through this, and I just want to give you a sense of some of the other question types. And I'll just again insert, just using that little trick I've done, call out, and I'll say, did you like this story? Again, lame questions, just to give you a sense of how easy this is though. And then this one I'll just do a text question, and it's just going to give the students a box to type in. Alright, so I could go through and add questions to each of the slides, and typically I do. And when I'm presenting to students, I'll give them just a few seconds to answer, and then I'll do a little 3, 2, 1 countdown. And I actually give them a participation grade based on their answers to the PearDeck. Alright, when the time comes and you're ready to deliver your lesson synchronously, what you want to do is come up here to the PearDeck menu, hit this hamburger, and I'll require students to join with their logins, so check that on so that you can give them a participation grade. And then you're just going to hit Start Lesson. And it's going to be instructor paste, except for those students that aren't there. You could deploy a second copy that's student paste. And I'm just going to go ahead and start a new session here because I'd already had a previous one open. And let's see. Gives you a few dialog boxes here with some information that you may need. Okay, and one of the things that you can do is grab this code and paste that into the Google Meet chat. So I'm just going to copy that, close the join code. If you forget to do that, it always shows here. And typically what I'll do, just so that you know, is I'll usually bounce this against one half of the screen, and then I'll choose my presentation in the other half of the screen. And that way, as I'm watching student responses here, I can still see my big slideshow. And then on my second monitor, I'll keep my Google Meet open so that I can watch students and monitor the chat there as well. So it works best if you have two monitors to do this with. Set your first monitor with the sort of dashboard here bounced against one side, and then pick your presentation to go on the other side. Okay, now you can see that no students are here yet. I'm just going to pretend to be a fake student. Join this. So again, in the Google Meet, you would just paste that join code, and that's what students would go into. So let me just make a new Google window here to simulate what the students will see. So I'm just going to go ahead, and in that Google Meet, I'll tell the students to go to joinpd.com. That's the address to get on, and then they're going to paste that code that you placed into the Meet. The students have to respond to how they're feeling that day, which is kind of nice because you'll see that with each of their answers, and then you can see who's having a bad day. All right, so this is what the student sees. I'm just going to drag it off on my screen here. And as a teacher, what's nice is that you can see how many students have joined. So I'll usually during that Google Meet say, hey, I've got 30 students in this video call. I've only got 15 of you on the PearDeck. Can you go to your chat, grab that join code, and jump in on this PearDeck? And usually after I make that announcement just a couple of times, I'll notice that I have 30 students in my PearDeck. Maybe a couple are missing, but once I have most of the students there, then I can go ahead and start the question. So the student would just answer that question, and you can see as I mouse over it, I'm the one student that answered. As a student, I can change my answer until it's locked by the teacher. If you want to lock that, you can go down there and do that. Students who have not responded, you can see their names down here in the bottom, and I'll usually say, okay, you guys, I want you to get full participation points. I'm waiting for Sally, Bob, and Jesse, and give them a chance to click in, and then I'll usually just do a 3, 2, 1 countdown and move on to that next slide. And again, this one is a drawing question, so I asked them to circle the author in red, and so just so that you can see that, you'll be able to watch right on my screen, and the genre in green. And I'm going to see all of those student slides come in. I can overlay them here if I want to, or I can leave them as a grid or little squares, however you want to view those. And again, if you scroll down, you can see the students who haven't responded. Give them a minute to do that, and then a quick 3, 2, 1 until you move on. And I can just keep advancing the slides. This one is drag my green thumb up to my favorite character, and my red thumbs down to my least favorite character. And I could have resized those thumbs so that they fit in place a little bit better. But again, this one overlaid it by default, but I could do individual responses to see what people thought. Again, students who've not responded, I can see their names down here, and I can say, Tony, Amber, Kevin, you still need to get in. Give them a chance to drag those thumbs. At least I know they're awake, paying attention, hopefully engaged. Depending on the type of question you can ask, you can figure out whether they're paying attention or not. Okay, and then I just do a quick 3, 2, 1, and just continue to go through the slides. What did you like about the story? And then this is where the students will be able to type an open-ended response to that question. And I just typed a bunch of random text, but you would hopefully see some thoughtful answers here. And this is also a nice way to be able to call on some students. If a student says something that's particularly eloquent, you could ask them to share their answer with the class, or if a student says something that's surprising, you could ask them if they'd be willing to explain. And so a lot of times when answers are coming in from students, I will look for those sort of unique and creative answers and ask those students if they're willing to share their ideas with their classmates. So it's a nice technique. All right, when you're finished, you can just go ahead and press End down here on the lower right, or you can just close the presentation. It won't hurt anything. Now, to get your results, you want to just go to PearDeck.com. So I'll just go ahead and enter that. And in the upper right is a teacher login, and you'll just log in with your PSD credentials. And then here up in the upper left are your sessions. And I've got this one running that I didn't end yet, so I'll just go ahead and ignore it. If I wanted, it says it's live right now, I could go ahead and hit the snowman and end that session if you ever see that, but you don't need to worry about it. You can rename these to match the period in the class, which is helpful. And so a session that I just did yesterday with Miss Betts, I could open up her class by hitting the snowman here and going to Export Spreadsheet. And that's going to open up a Google spreadsheet. And I've got that right here. I've deleted the students' names for privacy, but normally you would see the student name and ID number right here. You can get a good sense of who participated and how much, but if you want to get an actual score, you can just right-click on this column, say column B, and you can insert one column to the left, and then you can just title that participation. And then just by writing a simple little formula, you can get their participation score. So I just do equals, and then I just type in count A, which is just going to count how many cells have something. So it's just equals count A, and then I just use my mouse to highlight all of their answers all the way across here. You can see on this particular slideshow that I do with these students, there's 42 questions. I'll just close that parenthesis, so I have equals count A, parenthesis, C2 through AR2. Yours will be a little different because I deleted those student names. Divide it by 42 questions, multiply it by 100, and you may end up with something that looks like equals count A, parenthesis C2 through AR2, parenthesis, divide by 42 times 100. And Google will probably suggest to autofill that down, and you can just hit that green check mark, and ta-da, we have all those scores. If for some reason it doesn't suggest that, you can just mouse over the handle, just manually click and drag those down. But now I would have the student's name and ID here, and I would have a participation score for each student. And so you can see in this case, this particular student only responded to a little over half of the items, but I have some students up here that had 100% participation. So it just helps me as a teacher know who was engaged. I'm not grading whether the answer is right or not, but just simply whether or not they answered the question. If I wanted to score the correctness of it, I would have to use a add-on like Flubaroo to do that, but in this case I just want to simply see if they participated. So if I'm you, I would probably just deliver every lesson every day with a PearDeck, and it really only adds a few minutes of time to put those insert those call out boxes to pose the question to the student. Anyways, I think that you'll find a much more pleasant experience, so that you can at least see that students are paying attention and answering your questions even if they don't have their cameras on. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful.